problem that we were. There we go. Welcome everyone. This is live stream of task one that you guys should all be able to see. And we're going to share a little brief about what task one is. Um, at the moment, I'm the only mentor here, but there are other mentors who are part of the mentor challenge. And hopefully, we'll be able to then get everyone to come on board. Um, but firstly, just to give you a heads up, so the mentor challenge is not really going to be anything over and above what you're meant to be doing. All that we're trying to do with this mentor challenge is to trying to get people to deep dive and have a deep understanding as to what it is that you're going to be doing on Azure and with Azure, right? So essentially, what that means is that you guys are going to be working on different aspects of Azure, and you're going to be working on different things within the Azure environment. Um, and of course, the first one that we're going to be working with is going to be the first one that we're going to be working with is creating a web app. Now, for some of you, you might have been able to participate over the weekend in the challenge that was going out. So, essentially, in that challenge, you had to create a web app, and that web app would then allow you to, um, display certain things to people, right? So that's what it was about. That's what this past weekend was about. But now we're taking it a little bit further, and we're actually going to try and make it such that we are going to be working towards, um, creating something nice, something exciting, something that hopefully people will use to kind of get a deeper understanding as to the different aspects of Azure. So the first one, as I said, is going to be using app service. And we'll give you the details as to how to connect onto the app service and use that particular tutorial. It's also quite important that um, you understand that this is not about coding. Before anybody starts to think, oh no, this is a coding class, I don't know much about coding, it's not about coding. We do cover some coding, but coding is not the base of what we're working towards, right? So essentially, we're going to be trying to get you to have a little bit of an understanding as to how coding works. And some of you might have been asking, oh, how does this thing work? Can we copy and paste some of your code? You can try and copy and paste some of my code, but unfortunately, it's not going to help you. um, you're gonna have to be creative. You're gonna have to think out of the box. You're gonna have to do some stuff. You're gonna have to go and look at what interactive pages look like. All of those kinds of things. They will um, help you in terms of delivering something that is going to be really cool. Now, I'm just going to give you a brief look as to what the app that we're going to be creating looks like. All right. Now, I am using Visual Studio, the full Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code. But your IDE is completely up to you what you would like to use, right? I'm not going to make any decisions for people in terms of, oh, use this IDE over this one. It is a Microsoft course, so we're most likely going to be covering a lot more about um, Microsoft IDEs, and Visual Studio Code is the best code editor that I've interacted with, but there are others. You can use Sublime, you can use a myriad of others, but I think it would be really cool for you to try and identify which one you prefer for yourself and then use it, right? So, having said that, I'm going to run this code, This is now going to be creating an simple web app using ASP.NET. ASP.NET is the Microsoft tool that allows you to create web apps, right? Um, if you do download Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, you will get access to it. Just letting you know, Visual Studio is roughly about 40 gigs. So if you're going to download that, just be aware that it is that heavy. Alternatively, you can use Visual Studio Code. Lagiwe is one of the other mentors, and he will walk you through how to use Visual Studio Code. But this is basically it. That's what you're going to create, right? It's going to look like this. That simple, right? I am not going to take it much further than maybe adding a couple of things that will help you get an idea as to how to do CRUD operations. And that is going to be the next step where we're going to be covering create, read, update, delete into a database. So getting this app to link to a database at the moment, this is just it, right? And if you want to copy and paste this code, good luck. Yeah, it's gonna look that simple, right? So that's basically how that is gonna look. Now, let me. Oh, see, a couple of you guys are not able to see, so let's just do screen share. Right, there we go. And no, I'm not gonna give anybody control of my screen. But that's basically it, right? So that's how your web app is going to look. You're going to have a simple welcome page, and you're going to have navigation where you'll be able to go from one page to the next. You'll be able to add other pages as well. And this one is going to be using ASP.NET, as I said before. We are going to look at covering PHP. We're going to look at covering JavaScript. And we're also going to look at covering just simple HTML. I think I covered all of them. So it's ASP.NET, JavaScript, using Angular. You can use any one of the JavaScript frameworks, React, Angular. It's completely up to you. I prefer Angular. It's a little bit more robust. It's got weight in terms of what you can do, but it's completely up to you which one you prefer to use. But ultimately, what we're going to try and do for tomorrow is create a web app that has got 1, 2, 3 links, maybe at the most, navigation, and it allows you to go from one page to the next. Then you're going to deploy this on Azure, right? And it's going to give you different ways in terms of how you can read that particular thing. But this is something that we're going to be building on top of. This is going to be where it starts. It's up to you guys to figure out where you want to take it to. All right. So that's going to be your challenge over the next 2 to 3 weeks. All right. Basically, create something that is going to look really good. Now, I'm going to firstly stop this app, and then we're going to actually go into what some of the things that are going to be helping you make it look some way decent, right? Now, this is within an ASP.NET environment, and as I said before, um, I'm using Visual Studio, the full version, not Visual Studio Code. It's completely up to you which one you choose to use, but essentially, when you create a ASP.NET application, you're going to come here, all right? It's going to lead you up to this first page. In fact, maybe let's do this. Let's take it all the way back to the beginning. Let me close the solution. And this one is going to be the school one. I'm also going to close this solution as well so that, oh, and guys, this is dark theme. If anybody does have a problem with dark theme, please let me know so I can then address that. But I want to make sure that everybody's able to see exactly what it is that I'm doing, as opposed to everybody wondering what on earth is happening. So that's just a disclaimer. I'm throwing it out there at the very beginning. Dark theme is my thing. All right, so when you first get into Visual Studio, the full version, you're going to come here and it's going to be like, oh, okay, what's happening? First thing to do is to create a new project, right? And for me, I choose ASP.NET Core. That is my chosen language. I am a C# programmer. So I will then go to ASP.NET Core, first place that I land up. Then thereafter, it is completely up to you what you want to do in terms of ASP.NET Core. There are a couple of template projects that you can then start off with. The templates are really cool in terms of helping you get started with something and building something that is going to look decent, right? So let's first start with ASP.NET Core, and we're going to go for an ASP.NET Core web app, and then you click Next. Name your application. So let's name this one Environment or Nature, actually. Nature, right? Keep everything else exactly as it is so that you know exactly where to find it. So your location lets you know where you can find this particular folder, and then hit Next. Now, you're going to get to a point where you're going to need to decide on the version that you're going to be using. Currently, .NET Core 5 is out and is current, but there is long-term support for 2.1 and 3.1. Those are very important for you guys, especially because you're going to be doing Azure, and you need to understand in terms of long-term support what all of those different things mean. But essentially, it means that they're not updating anything on it, but at the same time, they're going to keep it active for the longest time. So that's essentially what that means. So let's go with .NET Core 3.1, and we're going to do long-term support and authentication type. Now, this is going to come in at a later stage when we start working with your databases. I don't want to start getting into this now, but this allows you to decide what kind of identity you're going to be having running on it. Now, that is also something that you're going to be covering in the Azure courses. It's one of the challenges as well, where you can then basically set up individual accounts. So each user that logs that comes to the site registers and then gets their own account created for them. And then there is Microsoft Identity Platform, which uses Microsoft um, Identity Platform in terms of logging in. And that one is a little bit complicated. And then there's Windows authentication as well. Um, it's up to you. Let's maybe do individual accounts for now. And we will link it at a later stage with um, Azure Identity. All right. But that's about it. You don't need to enable Docker for now. You don't need to enable Razor runtime compilation. That basically allows each Razor page, which is essentially a Microsoft web page, especially in an ASP.NET environment. It allows you to compile each page, but automatically, if you're running in the right kind of environment, it will then run without any issues. So we hit create, right? And it will start creating the project. Now, ASP.NET is really cool in that it allows you to, especially with Visual Studio, it allows you to work from a base template. So you are then able to then go from the template and say, okay, this is what I want to be doing. This is how I want to be working in terms of going forward. These are the kind of things that I want to have. But essentially, when you come into your project, you're going to come here, right? The overview of the project, ASP.NET Core documentation. I would invite you, and I would advise as well, to go through the documentation if you're going to be using ASP.NET Core. It is very important in terms of understanding what it is that you're going to be doing. It also has some really cool documentation in terms of tutorials where you can walk through and build your own application from start to finish and keep on adding different things as time goes by. It really helps you in terms of how to become a better developer because they are essentially you're going to be learning from the people who are creating the different applications and how to use them. And essentially, it also allows you to get a little bit more of an understanding in terms of what the different things are. But it will not teach you to code. What will teach you to code is going in there and breaking some things, right? I keep on saying it breaks stuff, and I mean it, break stuff, so that you kind of get an understanding as to what it is that you're going to be doing, right? So there we go. We're now here, and let's firstly look at the architecture and see what is in each of these folders, all right? So you've got your properties folder, which is your launch settings .json file. That is where basically you're going to then launch your product from. Your service dependencies are basically all of the files that are dependent. So in this environment, we've got two environments. We've got nature, which has got, if I'm not mistaken, it should have. All right, there you go. So this is where you're going to be able to see the application URL where you can actually live preview your application. And then we've got a development environment where you can make changes before it goes live, right? And then you've got your right, so you can also change this one as well so that it doesn't stay as a development environment. You can then make it a live environment. So there's two environments essentially, production and development. When you start working with containers and you are using your Azure Kubernetes service, you won't necessarily have to worry too much about all of that because most of your productions, most of your changes that are done in development are then going to go through into production once they've been approved. So that is where you get your CI, CD, continuous integration, continuous development or deployment, and it allows you to then make changes in production. The changes are validated and then it goes live. So you don't have to now be testing and then also now have to move all of these different things to a live environment where people are going to be interacting with your application. So that's what this particular page is about, right? Then your service dependencies, those are the different kinds of services that you have running. At the moment, we've just got MS SQL. We're going to add dependencies as we go along. And I'll show you how to do that in another one, or alternatively, you can then just private message me and I'll show you how to build that as well, right? So that's your properties folder, all right? www root, this is where your web developers, this is basically where you get your CSS, your JavaScript, and your libraries. And in your libraries, that's where you're going to get Bootstrap, jQuery, and you also have the same as well in your JavaScript. These are basically the things that help you decide how an application looks. Now, I'm going to run it in a minute once we go through all of these different folders. But in your areas, that's where you have your identity. So this is where you then start creating who then is able to log in, what do they see, and yeah, you basically create your login pages as well. But this particular aspect only deals with being able to see what people are logging into, all right? That's what that is about. And then, of course, you've got your data. Now, this is where we're going to be using Entity Framework quite a lot. And what Entity Framework is for those of you who are not necessarily SQL developers, you don't know what a database looks like. You hear people talk about it, but you're like, "Angazi yini?" Then that's what that is. Entity Framework is basically where you are then able to use code to create the database and then to also deploy to the database and put things into the database. We're not going to do the database today, right? We're literally just going to do the front end and wiring it up a little bit with some of the back end. So that's what we're going to be doing today, all right? And it's very important that you also understand that once we wire this data folder up, it is going to allow you to then create things that you can then use in a later stage. So things like your models, things like your data entities. That is where all of those different things are going to be stored in your data service. All right. But what we're going to be covering today in a little bit more detail is going to be your pages, how the thing looks. And the look is what you're going to be working on for now, because the last challenge, and then also if you go through the tutorial, you will only be able to see something that is very basic. You'll only be able to see hello world being put out to your screen, and that's not what we want. We want to be able to put out more than just hello world. We want to be able to put out something that looks, that people can then look and be like, oh, this is what this particular group decided to go with, right? And having said that, I think it's maybe time to run it, right? So now we're going to render this page and you're going to be able to see what your app is going to look like. Now, I keep on saying this. I don't do look and feel, guys. I don't know how things are meant to look. I can kind of make things work, but I definitely don't know how to make things look a certain way. All right. So this is how your app is most likely going to look. Hopefully it shares soonish. But essentially what we're going to be trying to do is trying to get this to look a certain way. All right. And I'm aware that we're running short on time because we're going to need to go into PHP shortly, but that's going to be coming up. But essentially, we're going to try and get everybody to be able to see a web app. And it's a little bit slow. Yeah, you know when things start to work against you. I think I might have too many things running at the same time, but nonetheless. All right, so there you go. That is how your web app is going to look, right? Very, very, very basic. It's white with black text. If this looks good to you, then you are my person. Me and you, we get along. This is really something amazing for me because that's how a thing should look. It needs to look clean. But there are those who say that it needs to have a little bit more about it, right? And I get that. It does need to have a little bit more about it, and it's very important that you get things to look a certain way. So we're going to start working around how things look, okay? And when we start working around how things look, that is where we're going to now start going into those CSS files, and we're going to be going into quite a lot of other things as well. But essentially, we need to be able to try and get things to look nice and also get them to work the way that we want to, right? Now, you can walk around this one. There's your privacy tab. So it then takes you to the privacy page, and then you go to your register page, and then you are able to then register and create an account, or you go to the login page, and then you're able to then log in and use a particular service. So that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to maybe add one more page to this, and that page is going to, I don't know, it's going to have to look a certain way, right? So this is where now I am going to stop for this particular one in terms of how you look. Let's actually get into the code and start working on how do you actually make things look a certain way, right? So usually when you're working in things, especially in ASP.NET, there is a certain level of code that you're going to be seeing, right? And in ASP.NET, especially, you're going to be working with a shared folder, and in your shared folder, there's something called a layout. Now, your layout is very, very important because it allows you to be able to engage, right? And the layout is very important as well, guys, because that is where you're going to be finding things like your buttons, your navigation bar, your different pages that you're going to be able to navigate to. Ah, great! We have Kemi as well, who's another one of the mentors. Everyone greet Kemi. Kemi, I need your help. I can't make things look nice. We're doing the ASP.NET version. I've just started the application and we're about to now go in and break some things. So before we actually break things, as we all know, as I said, there's different things that you're going to be looking at. The one that we're going to be working with right now is the layout page. This is where you're then able to then see where certain things are because this one is shared by every page. Remember when I clicked on the pages, the navigation bar, that strap at the top, maybe let me run it again, that strap at the top did not move. It stayed exactly where it was. It didn't change positions, it didn't go to another place. It was exactly the same, and you also were able to then see all of the different things that were there. That is what your layout shared tab is about, right? So that's what that page is about, and that's the one that we're going to start playing around with right now, all right? Before I continue, are there any questions? I'm also looking on the WhatsApp feed as well, seeing if there's any questions at all. Questions, anyone? Anyone?
Hi,
Yeah, go ahead.
can you guys hear? All
Yeah, I can hear you.
right, I have a question saying, can we record this session?
Yeah, it is being recorded.
All right, okay, cool. So we can share a link because I think some of the guys, if they don't have time to attend, they can probably just watch the recording
Yes,
because this
definitely.
is important stuff.
Yeah, they will be able to watch the recording, and we'll also have a recording on YouTube as well. It's just that I think I haven't actually checked the YouTube stream to see if it's working, but I haven't seen any problems. So hopefully it is working just fine. So yeah, we are recording this one, and you'll be able to then use that one as well.
All right, thank you so much.
Any questions? Going once, going twice. All right, gone. All right, cool. So the nav bar is this little thing here at the top, right? There at the top. You can see there's nature, there's home, there's privacy, there's register, there's login. This doesn't change whenever I change to a page. It stays exactly the same because it is in the shared folder and it is part of a layout. If you also look here at the bottom, there's something called the footer. Your footer does not change, it stays exactly the same, irrespective of where you are, it is always going to be the same. And that's because it is in this layout folder over here, right? So that's what we're going to be starting with the first change. And we're going to be applying some CSS. So CSS cascading style sheet, you don't necessarily need to know what some of these terms mean. You just need to know what they do. Um, because it's not like we're going to be asking you a test. What does the CSS stand for and what does ASP.NET stand for? You just need to be able to use them well enough to be able to do something with them, right? So let's start making our first change in the layout folder, right? And in the layout folder, we're going to be making some changes. Now, firstly, actually, let's go back. Let's go back a little bit to www. root. This one over here, site CSS. This is where, as I said, we start playing around with how things look, right? And if we use that to play around with how things look, that means it's pretty important. It helps us decide what things we're going to be changing, right? That therefore means we kind of need to use it. So I would like us to firstly go through and figure out how do we use it, right? Now, if you look here at the top, it says navbar brand. Navbar brand, that is that little section at the top where you're able to then see um, that navbar. It's got white space, normal, text align, center, break all of these things. They're really cool if you understand them. You don't necessarily need to understand them. I remember some people were saying copy and paste, and you can copy and paste. I'm going to show you a website that I love to copy and paste from. And it is one of my favorite websites to copy and paste from because you can get that code for free. Let us see if we can go there. Strap. Bootstrap free. Actually, template. Yes, guys, we are going to use template. You're going to use templates because they allow you to, while you're still figuring out what things do, you're able to then say, okay, I don't necessarily know some of the finer things about CSS. I can't make things look nice, and that is my problem. I know I've got that problem, so I am just going to use something that is very basic. And my basic thing that I'm going to use is, let's pick one, this one, right? So we're going to choose this one, free download. And you can also view the source code on GitHub. And it's really cool. I would suggest also keeping or activating a GitHub account. That way you're then able to save your work, right? So there you go. So we go to source, and in here is your assets. Your assets is basically things like pictures, images, favicons, all of those small and nice things that you can then use. But I unfortunately am not going to show those today. So I am going to open this file up and I'm going to copy and paste the style sheet into my active program. Okay, let me just move this out of the way. Let me extract. So I know this seems like it's a long way of doing things. The longer way, of course, is to do your own style sheet. And if you are creative enough, you'll be able to do it without any hassles. And that's good for you. I'm very impressed if you're able to do that. Great. And I would invite you to please try and do it and have fun breaking stuff, right? But if you don't have the skill, then maybe just, you know, use something that's going to help you get up and running quicker, right? And the up and running that we're going to be doing, as I said, is copy paste. Once done, and it is. All right, so let's copy and paste the style sheet. And yes, you can look at me funny, guys. Those of you who are web developers, I don't know how to make things look nice. Olwakemi, don't say anything, please, and don't out me to the public. All right, so let's go. Start, Bootstrap, Creative, and CSS styles. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste because I'm shameless. So let's edit, copy, paste, and it's going to look a hell of a lot different. right? And then I've copied, I've pasted, I save my changes, all right? And I'm also going to copy something else as well. I'm going to copy, oh no, guys, can I just do something? I don't know why, but it's got a lobby on the meeting. Just need to turn that off. I'm also going to copy the home page because, like I said, I am shameless. All right, there we go. Now, if you get disconnected, you'll be able to come back in without any hassles, right? So let's now copy and paste one more thing, which is the index page. All right, and we are copying pasting into layout because the one thing that we want is to change the nav bar. Now, if you look at this little line of code over here, that's letting us know the nav element represents a section of the page that links to other pages or starts within a page section with navigation links. That very white thing at the top that I was talking about, that's what we're going to change right now, right? But we're also going to change it in a, sneaky way, right? Because you might not know how to use all of the different things in terms of navigation, what each different part means. We're going to copy with a little bit of a sneak or cheat code involved, right? I am going to paste this responsive about collapse. All right, let's first do this. About brand ASP page. So I've just copied ASP area equals ASP page equals index nature because what that is that it's a navigation. It's something that leads you somewhere, right? And in normal HTML, you would literally have it like it is over here. href page top start bootstrap. That is how you would write it in HTML. We're not writing it in HTML, we're writing it in ASP.NET. So we're going to just change a couple of things over here. I'm going to change that name to navbar brand. All right. And what we want is everything's done. Cool. Delete. That's the first thing that we're going to now change, right? And essentially, I'm showing you guys how to copy and paste smart nyan. So this will allow you to copy and paste with a little bit of timing. It's got copy and paste like you don't know what you're doing. Copy and paste like you've been doing this for years. All right, and then we've got a button over here, navbar button class navbar toggle. All right, so there's one button, and hey, presto, guess what? We've got another button over here, but they don't look the same, do they? This one has got togglebar.navbar collapse. Okay, so how do we then copy this one in such a way that it still does what I want it to do? Um, Considering that we got rid of this entire style sheet, what we wanted to do is we wanted to keep the activities. So I'm going to get rid of this entire thing, this entire navbar. All right, so we got rid of the navbar. Let's see if it actually looks like it's meant to. I'm hoping it is. It might look completely different. Yeah, it might look way different. But I'm hoping that it actually is still going to look, or at least work. So we're going to run it, right? And essentially, this is how you're going to be able to teach yourself how to code, look at stuff, break things, see what you did. If what you did doesn't really kind of work, you go back. And you're going to be doing this for the entire page, for everything. Yeah, for everything. Hey, there you go. So we don't have the nav bar at the top anymore, but that's fine. We managed to change this little thing. It used to be blue, now it's red. That is also now red, but we kind of broke it, right? So how do we fix it? Control Z is your friend in this instance because you got rid of a lot more than you actually retained. Either way, it should still. But essentially, that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be taking stuff, breaking it, seeing if it works, and if it doesn't, go back. Yeah, because going back is your friend, and it helps you save in terms of figuring out what you did wrong. So that is briefly what you're going to be doing today. And know that. Oh, the other problem, of course, is we didn't do absolutely everything to make sure that what we're copying and pasting is going to be, but essentially what you're going to be trying to do is exactly as I was doing. Now, if we go and see on the web app, there you go. So it only there. So it shows up in miniature form, but it doesn't show up in widescreen. So that is something that we're going to have to change. It takes a lot of time to actually do that, but essentially, copy and paste is your friend. And in this instance, copy and paste is not my friend because I did not copy and paste correctly. Kemi, do you have a nice-ish looking one that they could then maybe try and play copy and paste with? Hello, Kemi. Okay, maybe let me do this. I'm going to try and run one that I already have that is not so ugly. I wonder if this one actually works up here. So we're going to run something that we already have. It's another application that we created, and it was created beforehand. I'm hoping that it looks decent. I don't even know how it looks. Um, and it will allow you to see if you copy and paste properly how you can make things look. Yeah, I think this one works. But essentially, what you're going to be doing, guys, for each and every single one of these, make your pages look like something. You don't have to make ASP.NET web pages right now. Make pages that look like something, I don't know, anything, right? Just so that you're able to then go through them and be like, okay, this is what we created. No, this one's still very basic. Try and find a working one where I did copy and paste in a decent way. There we go. So this is an active client solution right now. Um, don't tell the client, don't even tell anyone that you saw this. It's only meant to be done and released by Friday. And yes, I did use a template, and yes, I did copy and paste because copy and paste is my friend. Okay, while we're doing that, so I started off with a basic page. I then, in my www.root, added in the copy and pasting of the CSS, the style sheet. All right. So it looks completely different to what I initially started with. And that was by design. It needs to look completely different. In addition to that, of course, I've also gone, no, this is wrong solution. It's the base. So I've gone and changed a whole lot of things to basically make it suit my needs. Yes. Oh, and guys, don't be afraid of errors. They are also your friend because nice thing is they help you debug and figure out exactly what it is that you're doing or what you did wrong. But hopefully this renders. While that is still running, maybe let's go into C www.root css, and there we go, site css, right? And then we've got this. Copy and pasted this entire thing because I am just shameless like that. And there you go. I then land up with this, right? Allows me to have a page that looks completely different to the original one. My nav bar at the top, things are red, things are moving, and the page is now alive, right? And if we were to go to customers, and I think it's going to want me to log in. It's retained. There we go. So it keeps information, allows me to go to different pages. And if you look, navbar at the top has not changed. Still exactly the same, right? So I can create new, can do all of these nice things. And of course, there's everything at the bottom, right? This is what you'd be able to do at the end of something. But you need to break stuff. You literally need to break stuff, make things not work, and that is the most important thing. It's a pity that we weren't able to cover JavaScript, but there is a written tutorial handout that you can then use uh, for JavaScript, and there's also one for PHP, which we will also make available to you. But that is first and foremost the most important thing for tomorrow. It's not about making Hello World. You did Hello World before. For those of you who haven't, we'll send out that particular link that shows you how to do a simple Hello World application on Azure. But the first thing that you need to try and get right is figure out which topic you're going to be covering, how your thing is going to look. You don't have to have it, like nailed down right now, but you need to be able to copy and paste a whole website and throw it onto that Azure page and be able to use it in your presentation for tomorrow. Because the Hello World one is not going to cut it, guys. And yeah, we're going to be looking at that. That is just one of the things. The reason why we don't want just a simple Hello World application is because it is something that you already did. It doesn't show that you are progressing, that you're learning something new, that you are trying and you're breaking stuff. Most of you have created accounts and you need to use those accounts to break stuff. Microsoft is giving you, I think, $300, if I'm not mistaken. So they give you $200 or $300 to allow you to use Azure. So I think it's very important that you use that because, yeah, $200 credit. They give you $200 for you to break stuff. Use it to break stuff. Just as long as you make sure that you don't go over your $200. And it's very hard to go over just from creating a web app over one afternoon. So please try and use it as extensively as you can. That's roughly what we're going to be covering today. Um, if I did miss anything, please don't forget to reach out, say, hey, I need you to actually go into a little bit more detail with this, that, or the other. But what we're trying to do is trying to get you to be able to break stuff in Azure, break stuff in code. We are there to help you. There's a lot of mentors out there. There's even your fellow learners who are actual professionals and they'll be able to help you. So, yeah, I think that's about it for now. Opening it out for any questions that you might have or something that you want us to work on specifically. Oluwakemi is also here. She is another one of our mentors. Um, so, yeah, if you got any questions, ask away. I'm also looking at the WhatsApp channel and on the live chat as well on YouTube. So please just let us know. Are there any questions that you have at all?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so if you can on WhatsApp, you can send me the GitHub um, this codes. If you can send me on WhatsApp the link of it.
The code, sure.
Yeah. So I can just run them and change some stuff and break some stuff.
Okay, yeah, I will definitely send you guys that. I'll also give you the link for where you can go and get free templates for websites. Um, they're really cool. They allow you to um, play around with their things and they don't charge you as long as you just keep that link over there. A lot of these other guys as well, what they do is that they keep very nice descriptions of what the different things are. Let me see if I've got that. So you'll be able to know exactly what the different things are that you're going to be trying to change or break. That way you're not just breaking in the dark, you're breaking on top of something that you are like, oh, this is what this does. Let's see. All right, there we go. So header text. So it lets you know this is where the header is. Welcome area end. Features big item start. These are some really cool things. Features big item end. So you can kind of already know where to expect some changes if you break something. All right, so that's something that you can also do. So I'll send you guys that link. Any more questions?
I think that's it.
That's it. Okay, cool. So it's already telling me 5 minutes left. Um, so you're all going to get a chance to do this. As I said, choose your IDE that you want to be working with. If you don't want to work with an IDE, here is a really cool IDE. Doesn't even chow that much in terms of what you're going to be using. Notepad++. That is something that you can then use just to edit your code. You can kind of already see navigation. Okay, that's what that is. Masthead. Not sure what masthead is. Maybe let me just try it and change. About. Not sure. Try it and change. Um, keep on trying stuff so that you're able to then figure out exactly what it is. If you break something, let us know. We can kind of walk through it with you. We won't fix it for you. We'll let you fix it for yourself because that's the whole process of breaking stuff. But we'll kind of let you know exactly what it is that you're going to be breaking, right? So, for instance, things like section, you'll be able to look at all of these different things in a little bit more detail. Okay. Um, we're going to try and cover a lot more in some of the other classes where all of the other mentors are going to be in. But for today, go out, break stuff, and have fun, guys.